But but it was interesting because I was really interested in being able to talk to people openly, people who I just don't necessarily agree with. Because some of these men like don't think women should vote. Obviously, I think women should vote.
I was going to ask you that question. I want to learn a little bit more before we keep going. Like, what does it mean to be, I don't know if you know the answer to this, but what does it mean to be conservative in 2024, 2025?
So apparently this lady, she went undercover on a dating app, right? And she pretended to be a conservative, right? So that she could interact with Trumpy people or whatever, just to see what they're like on dates and stuff, which is crazy. I feel like that's not a very safe thing to do if she did actually go on the dates. I don't know, but she interacted with them a lot through the app, which is a conservative dating app. And so we're gonna take a look at this. I'm really excited for this. I think it'll be funny. I am Brentley. This is the Punk Apostate. Let's go. All right. So like I said, this is some show, I want to say called Ask a Matchmaker. I know typically I react to like Fundie Tube type stuff, but this came up and it has a lot to do with like Fundie type stuff because a lot of the beliefs of the people that she is undercover interacting with are pretty funny. I mean, they're talking about women not having the right to vote and expecting her to be like a trad wife and everything. And as you can see, she's got the look, right? she's got the look that those kinds of people are into. Specifically the far right MAGA people. They love their blonde hair and blue-eyed women, you know what I mean? So her pretending to be some trad wife lady, looking for a date on a conservative dating app like that, you can imagine she just gets flooded with these douchebag guys showing up just acting like asshats. And so let's hear what she's got to say about it.
I mean, it's a spectrum. Like, what does it mean to be liberal in 2024? I think it's like a pretty big spectrum. Like, you can go from kind of like moderate to far left. It's like moderate to far right, and conservative in this dating sense. What I saw on these apps, it was a lot of Christian nationalism. And because it was a political app, like I saw.
Which app was this?
I don't want to say.
Okay.
It's not something that I'm trying to, I don't want to disclose like any identities of the men.
Sure.
I don't want to advertise a dating app that doesn't take down.
So everybody runs out. Everybody's like, oh, I got to try this. This is going to be so funny. And then everybody goes out and gets on that app.
Like profiles of men who have like swastika tattoos. Like, I just don't want more people going.
So you saw stuff like that too?
Yes.
Wow.
Okay. So
on a dating app, that's a lot. Like that's, I guess there's no vetting going on. There's nothing, there's no like algorithm that's like looking for those kinds of symbols on the screen. That's crazy.
Go back. So in terms of like the conservative definition, because I feel like as a professional matchmaker in New York,
yes,
I have, some of my clients are Republican.
Yes. And to be clear, I was looking at the extreme examples. So I would not say this represents like anyone who identifies as Republican. I just want to make that clear too.
Right.
Oh, okay.
And I have met a lot of clients.
Gotta be like, not all Republican. Really? No. Yeah, all Republicans. It's okay. You can all that one. All right. Have you seen the guy they voted for? Yeah, you can all Republicans this shit.
In the past, where even if they're not Republican, they'll say stuff like, well, I'm socially liberal, fiscally conservative.
Oh.
And I hear ya, but now like the Department of Education was just like, well, an executive order was signed
to dismantle
it, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, is that being socially liberal? Like which one, what's fiscally conservative?
How many people I mean, I don't know, whatever. Maybe she's talking about real people that do actually exist. I don't feel like those people exist anymore. You know what I mean? They're like, I am socially liberal, but fiscally conservative. So I voted for Trump. Like, what? I don't think those people exist. I feel like they're all just crazy MAGA people. I don't know.
Conservative. And so then when I hear so far in what you're saying about conservatism, it's like when we say conservative, is it socially conservative, fiscally conservative?
So this was really, I was looking at it through the lens of dating. So specifically these guys, in terms of what is conservatism in dating, they actually had a pretty rigid checklist of what they were looking for.
Oh,
So that was really interesting to me.
Of course, the men, they got to be. I mean, can you imagine? I'm just so weird. Like, and I've heard horror stories of like women that have gone on like these first dates with these MAGA guys, and they all of a sudden just start breaking out all their insane political beliefs because it's like they just want to get it out of the way. They don't want it to like have. I guess like they don't want to. Like get along good and like, oh man, she's funny, she's smart, she likes the walks on the beach just like I do, right? And then all of a sudden, oh yeah, and I'm crazy, and then that because they're like, well, and she's like, well, I don't like crazy people, So they try to just get the crazy out the way, right from the get. I remember there was this dude. Oh God, he is the worst. He's what the heck was his name? Of course, now I can't even think. He was like this debate guy. He just loved debate. He was a right winger. And just would debate everybody online and everything. And I remember him talking about how he would just go on dates with like women or whatever, like ask women out, and then just start debating with them during the during the date. And he said they kept like just leaving. Like they would be like, I got to go to the bathroom. And then they just wouldn't come back. And I'm like, yeah, of course they did. Why are you debating your date, dude? And his whole thing was like, well, they just didn't have good arguments. If they did have better arguments, then I think they would have enjoyed our time. But since they had such bad arguments for the things that they believed, they couldn't hack it. They couldn't hack the first date with me. And I was like, wow, dude, that's sad.
Me, like, it was interesting to learn how these political beliefs like manifest in like an intimate relationship and in like in dating.
Mhm.
So almost all of them were looking for, most of them were using the term biblical patriarchy. It was a lot of Christians. Some of them like didn't really even grow up that religious, but I think that independent media, men's rights activists, red pill world, they've been really leaning into biblical patriarchy. Like that.
Biblical patriarchy, which, I feel like we all know what that means, right? Shut up, women. Shut up. You're not allowed to. No, just not even you thinking you can talk. No, shut up. I do the talking. Like that's and stay in the kitchen. I mean, what else? God is over. The only person over the man in the relationship is God, right? And then he submits to God. Of course, it's his interpretation of God, right? And then she submits to him as he submits to God, right? So that's the kind of thing. But she actually has to submit to a thing that actually exists, though. So it's a little bit different. But anyway,
that's a term.
Yeah, what does that mean?
So it's patriarchy as described in the Bible, where the husband is representative of your Lord and Savior. So there's this passage. He's
representative of your Lord and Savior. He is your representative. That's right. You
the article.
You're his constituent, basically.
The first thing that I wrote about this investigation is in Cosmopolitan magazine. And there's a specific line in the Bible, and I don't remember what verse it is, but you can find it in the story. And basically the idea is like, treat your husband as thy Lord and Savior. And so they're interpreting scripture.
I don't remember that verse, but maybe like I think what she's talking about is submit to your husband as your husband submits to the Lord.
They're interpreting scripture. So they're looking for a biblical woman, and a biblical woman, which is like to them divine feminine. They're looking for a feminine, traditionally feminine woman. And
divine feminine.
The way they're describing that is submissive. And what does submissive mean? These were all questions that I had. And I was like, what does submissive mean to you? Because
I mean, shut up. Why are you even asking? You don't get to ask stuff like I said, shut up.
these are things we talk about like in different, like you can, if you're talking about like energy and spirituality, there's like masculine and feminine energy, and that has nothing to do with gender. And so I didn't really know. I didn't grow up.
That sounds super woo. Were there some woo magas in there too? It's like somebody wearing some Birkenstocks, right? Those are shoes. I don't know if anybody's aware.
Christian. I didn't grow up like studying the Bible. So I really, and again, they're interpreting it in their own way. So I'm not saying this represents like the Bible. It's definitely their interpretation of the Bible.
Yeah, it's kind of like that for everybody. Sort of just everybody's interpretation of it. But I got it. Yeah, because again, she's not all Christianing this, but whatever. Okay.
But what they're looking for is a traditional wife in the biblical patriarchal sense who stays home. So they're looking for someone who in a year to year and a half will quit their job if they have one. So I'm very career oriented. So these are questions I had. And what these guys knew about me was I come from a liberal background, but I'm open to different perspectives. Cause basically I was like, the Democrats are all acting like fucking losers right now, which is true. I did feel that way. Like, there was no one was excited about the election. There was no energy on the left. So I was.
Yeah, that's kind of true. Unfortunately, she is kind of right about that. But how's everybody doing? We all feeling okay? It's Sunday. What's up? Let's see who won today. We got Michael. Michael, wow, you haven't won in a minute. That's all right. How you doing, man? What's up? And then we got Dave. You haven't won. You haven't been in the running in a while either. This is awesome. All right, cool. We got 3. Let's see. And Heckleck, who I feel like is. It's not as often as like James. Where's James? What is going on? Is James okay? Is anybody talking to James? No, but yeah, but no, you're in there quite often too, though. Heckleck, right? Anyway, and then who else we got? We got Al. Al. What's up? It's hard to say that when you're like hell, Al. Like I'm trying to do Al's thing. Al's thing is saying hell. It's like hell. I don't know why. That's just what he says. So I'm trying to do it there, but it sounds weird. You're like hell, Al. Hell. It sounds like I'm talking about Superman's brother or something. Hell or something. I don't know. Anyway, who else we got here? Blood Badger. What's up, dude? Hell yeah. What's up, bro? Yeah. Hey, what's up with you? I'm doing a live stream actually. What are you doing? Well, you can't answer. I don't know. Anyway. See. Ryan, what's up, dude? Hell yeah, you made it. Oh my gosh, it is. It is Wee Day. That's what I call it. Happy Wee Day. It's just, you just got the one D in there. WEEDAY. Wee Day. That's today. And what else we got? Who else? Hellbound Hillbilly. What's up, dude? I think that's Ephesians 5. It does say that the husband is your Lord and Savior. Or treat your husband like he's your Lord. Wow, that's crazy. Dave. Shut up, make me a sandwich, bitch. Make me a gall darn sandwich. Jesus, Theo, what's up, dude? Said love her sassy Cali girl accent. Right? Oh, she does kind of have the Cali girl look. She looks like somebody. I'm trying to think. Was it Mystique? I don't know. She kind of. Here's the thing with and I apologize to blonde women in movies everywhere. You're all the same person to me. I can't I can't distinguish every single time Nikki's telling me about like Nicole Kidman or the lady from Clueless. I'm like, I mix that. They're the same people. I don't know. She's like, what? Those are clearly two obviously different people. Not to me. Everybody in Hollywood's blonde hair, blue eyed woman. I can't. No, they're all blurring together. Sorry.
I was looking at the right because MAGA was lit. And I was like, why are you guys so excited? What's going on here?
Right.
So this was kind of, and I was like, I am open to new perspectives, but I'm coming from a liberal background. So I'm not totally aligned with you, but I want to learn.
Okay.
Oh, they love that. They love that. You're like, actually, I'm liberal, but I'm starting to, I'm open-minded. I feel like I could be convinced. And they're like, well, have we got the information for you? Turns out George Soros is, ruling the world. He's a lizard alien. I don't know if you know that. And he is actually controlling the globalist elites Illuminati, right? And so he's got this.
So they had the opportunity to basically evangelize me, which is like how they were taking it, which is exciting for them. So they're like, let me teach you. So I could ask them, what does it mean to be a conservative woman?
Okay.
And they would ask me like, I mean, they barely asked me any questions. So they were just like telling me stuff.
Yeah, I don't really care what you think. Anyway, so but here's what you need. Here's the stuff about me that's actually important because I'm the important one here. Yeah, they don't ask, which is like if you know anything about women at all, like ask questions. Of course, like that's like job one on your on your first date or your dating app or whatever. Ask questions, like learn stuff. And then remember it. Dedicate it to memory, the stuff that they tell you about the questions you ask. Jeez Louise. Michael said, I've just been setting up. Oh, I've just been settling in after a move. Oh, shit. Yeah, no, sorry. That sucks. I mean, unless the place is great, but moving sucks. That is literally my least favorite thing to do. And you know what? A pizza and a 6-pack ain't freaking worth it, man. All right. I don't know who came up with that as the standard. It's the gold standard. As long as you've known this person longer than like a year, they're like, oh yeah, you got to do it. You got to say yes to a beer, to like a 6-pack of beer and a pizza for back-breaking work all day. Nonsense. I'm not, no, I don't think so. Baba, what's up, dude? So write that down. Write that down. Can we write that down? Yeah, write that down. Yeah. Doing the Van Wilder. Write that down. Yeah.
So submissive literally means to a lot of these guys, and this is extreme to me. It felt.
Is she like swearing a lot or something? Or is this just, do they have the gate on the microphone up too high? Like that drives me nuts. I don't know why. Like if you're a new content creator, don't have that gate up too high. Okay. You can hear it every single time you stop. It's like dead silence. Like it feels weird. And then anyway.
Felt extreme to me. But they would say they talked about training their wives and wives having obedience.
So they're like dogs. Sure. Why not? Yeah, they're dogs.
They talked about
like physical?
Yes. And
what, physical training? What? Hold on. What? How did the word physical fit in that? Like, how was that question?
They talked about training their wives and wives having obedience. They talked about
like physical.
Yes.
I love her face. She's like, what the fuck? Like that, and she just stays like this. Are you serious? Like what? The training is that? She is very confused. It's like that can't be right. You must have missed. You said something. You messed up. You didn't say the right word.
And they talked about like you're not supposed to talk back. Like it's not feminine. Like you're supposed to like do what your husband says. So they're looking for someone, and it's
feminine to do what your husband says.
It's like to me, this sounds like fantasy. I don't know women like this. So
yeah, these women don't exist. That's not a thing.
And that might just be because I'm in a bubble, but they're looking for someone in a year to a year and a half. You're planning to get married. So you're looking for your husband. That's why you're dating. So they're dating with a goal to get married.
We love goal-oriented men.
And they're looking for someone.
That's pretty funny. That was good. That was a good one. Kudos on the joke there.
And who, if you're working now, they want you to quit your job and focus on raising children. Homeschooling is huge.
Homeschooling.
All of them wanted homeschooling.
Whoa. So are they dating?
All of them wanted homeschooling. This person's dating you, right? Or you're like seeing if they want to, like, I don't know, are you a teacher? you feel like teaching some kiddos? Okay. Because that's going to be your full-time gig. All right. You got to be teaching. Jeez Louise.
Teachers?
Well, that's what I asked them. I was like, okay. So, and both my parents are very educated. They have 3 PhDs between them. And like, I grew up with education being like,
at this point, who was surprised by this? I don't know. It's just funny that we have confirmation, okay? Because we had a journalist go undercover to tell us what we pretty much already knew. But I don't think we knew it was to this extent, though, right?
A huge core value,
right?
So I'm aware that you have to have a higher education to be like a preschool and elementary school teacher because you're literally a child psychologist.
Right.
So I was like, okay, so what's the curriculum if we're homeschooling together? Let's say we get married.
And you're asking.
Yeah, Theo said I can distinguish blonde actresses except Jamie Presley and Margot Robbie. It's just me. I mean, it's not just me. It's because Hollywood has exactly one face for women. Men can look all sorts of different ways, right? Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's like a Brad Pitt-esque like type of look that Hollywood likes, but men are allowed to be a lot more diverse, right? Women, no, one face. They got one face that they all have to have. Otherwise, you ain't getting famous unless you're doing a comedy movie or something. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Asking this in earnest.
Yeah, I'm asking this like I'm not making fun of them.
Yeah.
Because also what's
I love how you have to say that. I am not making fun of you right now with this question. This is an actual. Hold on. What was the question again?
What's the curriculum if we're homeschooling together? Let's say we get
What's the curriculum? Okay, it's like the Bible. Hello. Okay. Have them count the apostles or something. That math. Done. We're done. I mean, how much do they really need to be able to add more than 12 anyway? Right.
married.
And you're asking this in earnest.
Yeah, I'm asking this like I'm not making fun of them.
Yeah.
Because also what's interesting is
I kind of need to know the curriculum if I'm going to be teaching this stuff. All right. I got to get it. I got to go learn it. Right. Because you can't teach stuff that I don't know. Right.
they all had like their version of dating horror stories, which is like, I went on a date with a liberal woman with blue hair.
They didn't.
Yeah, they hate.
I know, right? Okay. I was like, no, they didn't. Bullshit. They're such liars. It reminds me of, and stop me if you've heard this one. The guy, it reminds me of like my conservative friend. He would tell me this story, and every single time, just like, dude, you're lying. Come on, man. That's a lie. But the story went like this. I was walking up to a department store, Ross, right? There's a store called Ross, and they've got stuff that I guess fell off of the back of the truck or whatever. It's all messed up, but you can get name brand. Anyway, I don't know why I'm describing what Ross, it doesn't matter. Anyway, he was walking up to the department store, right? And opened the door for a woman that was, a few feet back, and she got mad. She's like, how dare you open the door? I have arms. Look at this. 1, 2 arms. I got both of them with fingers and everything. You think I can't open a door? How dare you? This is disrespectful. Just to open a door. Like, you go through a whole thing. I'm like, dude, that is such bullshit. There's absolutely no way that actually happened. Come on, man. Who the hell does that? That's just not a thing.
Women with blue hair, they hate also pink hair.
There's no way a blue
What's up, Patty? How we doing?
haired or a pink haired woman went on a date with them.
I mean, not through that dating app.
That's what I'm saying.
But these guys live in New York City. They present as liberal because they don't want to lose their liberal friends. And then they go online and they're a neo-Nazi online, or like they're a white supremacist online. But in real life,
that's so weird how they got to be like that. But that is what it is. And I feel like more recently, given like the political climate that we're all in, that line is becoming less distinct. You know what I mean? Like the online troll version of them and the person that they have to be in front of other people is that it's getting kind of blurry, right? And it's funny because I know some MAGA people, and you can tell when they say stuff that they believe, right? And they know that what they're saying is shitty, right? But they're saying it anyway. Like, it just sort of slips out. You're like, oh crap, I shouldn't have said that. Like, that's supposed to be something I just say on Twitter, but shoot, slipped out of my face. I swear that's, and you're like, oh, so you can tell you're a bad person when you say this stuff out loud in front of actual people, right? And it's not just you surrounded by a bunch of bots going, right? Yeah, totes, bro, up top. Can we just, oh man, boy, if I wasn't a digital robot, I would totally high five you right now.
they're trying to blend in because they still care about having friends and they care about
PC, what's going on, PC? How we doing?
Social
being
status too.
not even maybe social status, but I really think it's more about not feeling ostracized, like because they genuinely feel isolated and left out, like they're what they believe and what they feel about themselves. They feel like they are not they feel left out.
Let's go back to the homeschooling.
Oh, Michael was saying that so it's kind of run down. You said okay, but it saves you like what 12 hours? You said of driving. Wow. No, yeah, I feel you. And the job pays better. Well, that so it's gonna just get the place for a couple of years, right? Once you save up your pennies, and then you get a not run down place, right? I guess that's how you're supposed to do it. I don't know. Unless inflation just keeps right up there with you, which actually does have, that is what's gonna, never mind, forget everything I just said. It's not.
Yes,
Because
homeschooling.
I can understand where someone could feel left out there, right? Like if you decide to take your kid out of a more structured and schooling environment, you're kind of disconnecting from a social network.
Yeah.
And, some will say, oh, well, I know.
He said, I was homeschooled. I got a good one. But at the end of the day, most of the kids that I knew, their parents weren't willing to put in the work. And I grew up in one of the most educated towns in the U.S. Oh, okay. No, I feel it. What is it? Is it Massachusetts? in Boston or something? I feel like that's a good one. Yeah, no, I was homeschooled, and I was like part of a homeschooling group, and this is kind of like why. And actually, there's a episode of the Apostate sisters is coming out soon this week. Be on the lookout for that. That is about homeschooling, and I'm pretty much against it. I mean, at the same time, I understand that, like, given again our current political climate and everything, and the fact that they're just trying to destroy public education, I get why people do it. But as far as just a concept, I think we should all support public education and support it being as good and robust as possible. Because there's a lot, everybody can't homeschool, you know what I mean? And a lot of people shouldn't homeschool. Like there's a lot of parents out there that just please don't, just do it. It's like when you have like both parents work, but they homeschool with your kid. They're like, just read this book, dude, and here you go. Fill out this life pack or whatever we used to call them, life packs. And they're just like little workbooks or whatever. And that was your schooling for the day. It was just like reading some stuff, filling out some answers. That's your whole day of school. No, come on, that's not gonna work. We need people that are like educated to teach kids. Now again, I understand we need better education, better public education period anyway, for that to happen. So, but I think we should support it as a concept. Anyway, I'm off on a tangent here. I don't know.
Plenty of homeschoolers who connect with other homeschoolers, but
So they
a lot don't.
So okay, so for example, the way that a couple of them described homeschooling to me would be, okay, so we're gonna get married in a year and a half. We're gonna move out of the city. We're gonna have a homestead. And then we're gonna go in on like so when I was asking how am I gonna teach them like math and science and also like English and history, like people go to school to teach just one subject.
Right. Yeah. Teachers like really do learn, like they learn a single subject because you have to know a lot in order to be able to teach it. And then you also have to have like a specific set of skills to be able to teach too. So it's not, and a certain level of patience and, just a lot of stuff that a lot of parents just don't have,
And also, again, I'm not a child psychologist, which you need.
Last said on schooling, that one really kills me. We're like, yeah, we're just not at all. You're like, wait, so you're like, well, you're letting them learn. I mean, you're going to be teaching them a certain, no, not teaching them at all. No, yeah, I figured they'll figure it out. Right? They'll get it. We don't need to teach them stuff, right? He's smart, right? They'll figure it out from SpongeBob, probably, right? I don't know.
Like preschool teachers to be.
And if you're on a homestead, you also have to, collect the eggs from the chickens.
That's like so many full-time jobs at the same time.
Right.
So, which is also very feminist to be that woman, to have so many full-time jobs at once, by the way, because they also think this is like an anti-feminist lifestyle. And I think that's actually very feminist for women to be participating in that kind of labor.
If they chose it.
If it's your choice. So
See, I should have the correct thing. If you did choose that and weren't forced into it because you didn't have any choice, because that would not be feminist at all. I think what she's trying to say is that's a lot to put on a woman. And if she's capable of doing all that shit, that is pretty badass. That's so yeah, badass feminism. You know what I mean?
Basically, they're one of the fantasies is you have multiple families and they all want the same type of homeschooling, and you all pay a teacher who's somehow affiliated with a church. So I'm like a nun, and they're like, yeah. And then that's
like a nun. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you seen Blues Brothers? Mm-hmm. Yeah, just like that. You can can float around and stuff.
Described a
With
commie.
magical powers.
So that's what that's what they want. That's the type of homeschooling they're looking for. Like that's their solution. These are the new communities that they want. I don't know if I have no idea where
Hey, Andrew, how you doing? What's up?
they where this model is like coming from, that it's like these men who are not connected are, you know, saying the same thing. But
Where does the fantasy come from?
yeah, and yeah.
Do you follow Ballerina Farm? Do you know what that is?
Yeah, is that
Oh
the
my
one
gosh.
that there was like a British newspaper wrote about
Yeah.
it, and she like asked for something for her birthday and got like an apron instead or
She
something.
wanted to go to Greece and
Oh,
she
yeah.
got an egg apron.
Yeah, the ballerina farm thing. If you haven't, it's funny they're talking about that. I almost did a whole thing on it, but I felt like I kind of missed the boat because it was, you know, I got into it after everybody had already kind of talked about it, so I didn't want to like rehash stuff everybody was already aware of. But that shit was crazy. Where it's just like this, her name was Ballerina Farm, and she was being interviewed, and the interview ended up being mostly about how the husband wouldn't let her interview. Like he had to be in the room, you know, and then it was very clear that when he left the room, her answers were kind of different, you know, and so she was kind of like, he seems to be influencing all of your answers. But yeah, and the way that she described it and everything, people were like, what the heck? She sounds like a prisoner, you know? And of course she got all mad, and like, I think they even said they were trying to sue. They were trying to do a lawsuit against the journalist or something for like spinning it in a way that makes it seem like she's unhappy. But like, she was like taking care of like 10 kids or something. It wasn't 10 kids, but it was like a bunch of kids. And like, there was like one time she just slept for like, she didn't get out of bed for like a week because she was so exhausted and stuff. Like there was a lot of red flags and everything she was saying. But yeah, one of which she was like, I want to go to Greece or whatever. And he knew that she wanted to do it. And I don't know if he like played it up like that was what was going to happen. And then he just gives her an apron, you know, which is just like, wow. Then you could just see the disappointment in her face. It was just like her soul died as soon as she opened it. Oh, something for cooking and cleaning and taking care of the kids. That's all. That's my whole life. Because the thing was that was the other thing too. As a ballerina farm, she's super talented. I think she was a dancer, right? And so she's ultra talented. And he basically made her give up on her dream to be a dancer or whatever. But anyway.
But she has a lot of children. And I mean,
I read
by
that
the way,
story and she was like exhausted in it.
yeah. And she was, I guess, going to become a professor. She was at Juilliard. And then she left to be with the son of JetBlue. They have like a massive operation.
Yeah, the dude was like ultra wealthy. The JetBlue, he was like the child of the JetBlue fortune or whatever.
I think in Utah.
Do we know their religious affiliation if they're
They're
Mormon?
Mormon.
Mormon, yeah. That was the other thing. They were Mormons. So just right there, already a level of insane.
So Mormons, there are these like Mormon mega churches where a lot of, when I was looking into the trad wife
They do Mormon mega churches. That's funny. I see them coming out in their skinny jeans, right? And their chest hair showing with their gold jewelry or whatever. They're coming out on like roller coaster things or whatever. All right. How's everybody doing? Fire comes up out of it. Ready to talk up some Joseph Smith? Yeah. I can't hear you. It's like,
influencer world.
Yes.
I mean, I feel like
Um,
she's their queen in my eyes. But there's
so-
actually such a big landscape of Mormon influencers.
Yes, and they don't necessarily talk about their religion. So they are a lot of them focus on, like, I come from kind of like a health and wellness background. I was a wellness editor for a while. And so there are a lot of
hell really said. I swear I just heard ballerina fort. And I need sleep. I don't even know why I'm still awake. Yeah, no, I said farm, but that was funnier, you know. I mean, and I'm sure they do that sometime, probably, you know, because they're all the positions that get in all the time and stuff, you know. It might be anyway.
wellness trends that are coming from like, going back to nature, the farm to table, holistic, whatever. And to me, on the surface, that sounds great because it sounds like healthy. And I love farm to table anything. I love people connecting to their food source. But when you look, so at first I thought,
Buddy of mine does that. He's got he literally has like tomato plants and stuff out back. If you're a member, I was actually hanging out with him the other day and did a short little live stream of us listening to music. And of course, the damn copyright was like, hey, can't be listening to music like dirt, And so I had to say I was sorry and not monetize it.
thought, oh, this is cool. But then I started learning that they all are Mormon without talking about being Mormon. I didn't think that was necessarily important. Like, I don't think
that Mormon megachurch would be a hilarious stand-up. That would be a good bit, right? The whole thing, yeah.
you need to disclose your religion. But Mormonism is a
Wait, you don't think you would have to disclose your religion? Hold on, what?
being Mormon. I didn't think that was necessarily important. Like, I don't think you need to disclose your religion. But Mormonism is a
What if they're Scientologists? I feel like you need to disclose that crap, right? I mean, come on.
through line in a lot of these
I've always felt
influencer cases.
Yeah. And I've always, in seeing the influencer space with, I mean, they even have like a Hulu show. The Mormon influencers now, the moms.
Sure.
What?
And
You serious? There's a Hulu show? I need to get on this because that's got to be funny. I'd imagine. Anyway, how not normal are they? Are they pretty weird?
of course, again, Mormonism is not talked about.
Skeptically pissed. What's up, dude? How's it going?
But in what you just said, the through line, I think it's showcasing a lifestyle. And it's like, well, if I want to subscribe to this lifestyle, I could move to Utah and have this lifestyle. And look, I'll give credit where it's due. What Mormonism has done for the communities of Utah is that it's created their village. They have a community that, I mean, any religious community is going to have the community. It's the people you can rely upon and be a part of. But it also comes with
unless you do like the slightest thing that allows you to like fall out of favor because of the the way that these like cult like religious beliefs work, right?
I think a certain drawbacks that might not be familiar to us that are raised on the East Coast.
There's like that movie. Is that the one? Yes, the Village movie. Mm-hmm.
I think it's also, people don't.
They were Mormons, right? Weren't they Mormon? I think they were. Mm-hmm.
Something I learned during 2024 was that the Mormon Church was funding the Republican Party. It's a huge financial backer of the Republican Party and conservative values, and people don't know that. And I think I'm not from America, I'm from Russia, and I have a lot of friends who are also immigrants. And when you have that kind of global perspective.
If she's from Russia, she does not sound like it. I guess she knocked that accent out of there early on or something.
It is a bit scary to think about religious institutions being at all involved in politics.
The host of this show shakes a lot. Yeah, I have ADHD, dude. Okay, that's the thing. And I have it like more than most people, I think. There's a lot of a lot of people have it. Not a lot of people have it to the degree I do.
Like that is something that just because when you come from somewhere else, you've seen it go so wrong. And so I did notice learning that about like finding out how much money was being
what are we doing?
Funneled from like the Mormon church to one specific political party.
Oh yeah. No, the Mormons are like super wealthy. You don't think of it like, most of the time when you think of like wealthy religions, you think of, well, Scientology, right? I mean, for me anyway, because like I live down the street from their Mecca, and they are literally just buying the entire city of Clearwater. Anyway, but yeah, Mormons, tons of money, like a huge, just a shitload of money. I almost think that was why that movie, The Sound of Freedom, they were able to like make it like whatever it was, like number one on what was it, number one? Yeah, I think it was like a blockbuster hit or whatever, that Sound of Freedom movie, right? But when you went and looked at how many people bought how many tickets, you would see that like there would be like one buyer of like thousands of tickets. So and the Mormons did that. It was like they hyperfunded that stuff because that dude was a Mormon. And so they basically, it was like the opposite of grassroots. Like they just really wealthy people just bought a ton of tickets, and then they just like would give out free ones to people. And be like, oh, you could go and do that. But like most of the time, the sold out theaters were completely empty and everything. It was like they completely faked it. Anyway, but that was because the Mormons are just so well off as far as wealth goes.
And then also seeing these influencers not talking about their religious affiliation, and then also connecting that like new white supremacists, like young men who are kind of becoming, who are like embodying the supremacy, like they are taking on these lifestyle values that like really align with some of these influencers. That it doesn't all seem connected. And I'm not saying that it is on
connected,
purpose.
though.
Yeah, well,
it is. It seems like it's just in listening to you, right?
Yes.
If you are saying, okay, these are the values that I want in my future, and now I also have imagery coming in from a different community that embodies this.
Yes.
Then, well, it can happen. Look, they did it for here.
Yes.
We'll do it here.
Yes.
Were all of the men that you were dating through this app New York City based?
They were all New York City based. And I also,
I thought it would be national or something. I didn't realize that we had.
I focused on New York City, especially because I found it so interesting that we're such a liberal city. And I think most of the people I know are Democrats, but even New York City Republicans that I know would not at all align with the things that I found on this app. So
it's funny too, because like I feel like if you did go on this app and try to get with conservative men or whatever, like putting New York is actually a pretty good idea, because if they're in like Alabama or whatever, they can just walk down to the watering hole or whatever to get a date. But in New York, they're probably a lot more likely to utilize something like a dating app, because so many people aren't right wing,
it's not even just like party based.
Did you ever go on it?
Especially in New York. Like New York is just one of those places where it's like everybody, like you're so surrounded by diversity just everywhere that it's so much more difficult, I think, to think conservatively about things, because you have so much access to like other people and seeing them all as humans, and not as like evil creatures or whatever that are invading your country or whatever. It's just, they're just people, because it's New York.
Any dates?
Yes. So I matched with 60 guys total. I went on 26 dates over the course of the presidential race.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So she did actually go on dates. So that's the other thing too, I guess, when we're talking about why she did the New York thing. She actually wanted to go on dates with these people. Holy Lord. I didn't realize. I thought maybe all that she was going to talk about was like her interaction with the people on the dating app. I didn't realize that she was actually going to. That's almost unsafe, dude. Like you got to be careful. Shoot.
And there were 14 men total that I met in person.
Okay.
And
were they cute? I'm just trying to figure out.
No, it makes sense. Yeah.
I think
she like shrugs. What do you mean it's cute? Yeah, I don't know. Maybe whatever.
I think attractiveness and height is being put in here because I do feel like there is this sort of red pill content that has told men about some 80-20 rule, that like only 20% of men get 80% of women, which by the way, I'm just telling you what they're saying online. So then there is this subset of men who are like, well, because I'm not tall enough or because I'm not good looking enough, I can't get this. And then they do fall into these sort of this is my perspective.
Yeah,
you can correct me, of course.
Like superficially, like just if I just were to base them off of
conventional attraction.
Yeah. It sounds like she's talking about like incels, right? Like those are the incel people, right? They get all mad. They're like, women owe me. They owe it to me to date me. And it's bull crap that there's other people that are more attractive. I hate this.
I would say that like maybe 25% of them were like classically attractive men. But like for me,
25% of 14. Where's Ember? Is Ember here? Where's Ember? She would know this off the top of her head. I know it.
That's like really not enough. So it's really hard for me to find chemistry with someone who, I mean, their energy, to have the beliefs that they had, these were the most insecure men I've ever sat down with. So it didn't really matter what you looked like because
3.5. Thank you. There's a half a dude. He was halfway good looking, I guess.
your energy is totally going to dictate.
The left half looked good. You know, if he just would look like, if he would just pick up a mirror and walk around like this, he would have been fine. You know, otherwise, Two-Face. He looks like Two-Face.
How
I
you
need
feel.
more. Tell me more about this. Like, so on the dates, like,
So I also like really, they were obsessed with masculinity. These guys were talking about, like, they would ask
on a
me,
first
Really, the insecure people are obsessed with masculinity. What?
date, they were talking
even
about this?
before first date. So when they're talking on the app, they're excited that we're matching on a conservative dating app, and they're excited that.
Well, you're very attractive. I just want to throw that out there.
Thank you. I appreciate
Like,
that.
I think on any dating app,
Like I would actually myself, I would take get a piece of that. You know what I mean? Wow. I'm sorry. No, now I'm just this is awkward. I'm sorry. Ooh, why did I do that? I'm sorry. Moving on.
like,
I'm not actually on any other dating apps.
oh my God.
I've tried them,
One side is smoking, the other side is ashtray.
but I find it pretty difficult to know if I could talk to anybody.
Sure.
And like, I think there's chemistry, and really I'm just having chemistry with myself in like a chat. And then I meet them in person. I'm like, there's nothing here. So dating apps for me, like, they feel like they've felt like a waste of time. So I'm not on them. But
prior to your date, you were having conversations with them,
And
and they were
they-
already grooming
yes,
the
because
masculinity. stuff.
because they were really interested in like talking about these horror stories. They're like, ugh, like I went on the worst dates with these like liberal women who would yell at me about like XYZ. And it's a political app, you know, it's like everyone's conservative on this dating app. So they're talking about politics is the common denominator.
So they're lying. They're lying, right?
Like, yeah, liberal
Unless they're saying that they went on some date with somebody that wasn't on the app, but
liberal white women are the worst. And they think they found like this unicorn because, like you said, they look at me, they're attracted to me, and I'm open to their point of view. Amazing.
whoa.
So then they then ask me, like, it must be horrible dating these emasculated men
with
of
their
New York City.
pronouns.
With their pronouns and their blonde hair. I don't know what are the liberal men? What's the hair color for liberal men?
And they kept talking about like emasculated men, like you know, and the Democratic Party is so emasculating, and liberal men are so feminine, and like you need a real man, and that's kind of
They would write that?
yeah, like they were like, you deserve a real man to take care of you. Like they kept they really were talking
That is-
about.
Why is a straight man talking about men so much?
It's weird.
It's weird. I don't know. They're kind of obsessed with how masculine they are. That's what you need a real man like me. I am a real man. You know, their voice doesn't sound like that either. They sound like Ben Shapiro. You need a real man like me. I'm a real man. Why? Because I say that men aren't masculine enough. That makes me more manly.
It's weird.
It's really strange.
I mean, but I think that, you know, they were really obsessed with masculinity. And so, and that to me, it's like, okay, you're so confident in your masculinity, or you're trying to present confident. Obviously, I was reading between the lines. Like,
Yeah, it's like, or, you know, you're pretending. You're just pretending. That's all this is.
they wanted to sound a certain way, but then in person, not one of them had any real confidence. They were there was one guy.
What was their posture like?
Their body language was like, some of them were a bit cocky, but most of them were pretty like intimidated. They're pretty intimidated. They were nervous. There was one guy who, you know, if you read the initial story that I published about this, there was one guy, he was like 6'4". He was a former D1 athlete. He was my favorite one because he was self-reflecting on like, because I was trying to figure out like, why are you guys like this? You know, what's the origin story? Like, how did you get radicalized politically? Because family background, normal, how they grew up, normal, went to good schools, like nothing that really stood out.
Lester said, my younger sister is a trad wife that homeschools her kids. Drives me crazy. She upgraded from doula to midwife recently. Barb, what is a doula? I don't know what that is.
But for the most part, they were all, with the exception of like my favorite guy, who is kind of like the star of the initial article that I wrote. They were all the most insecure men I've ever met in my life. Like, so insecure. I was constantly having to de-escalate. Like, I mean, they were on a date, but I was working. I was profiling them.
Yeah.
You know, I'm undercover. No.
Okay.
So
Can you give me an example of
yes.
de-escalating?
Sure. So there was this one guy who, like, you know, I mean, many of them would say they all had a similar line where they would kind of fumble with how they wanted to tell me something. And they'd be like, I don't know the right way to say this, and I don't want any drama.
Oh.
So that's the threat. The threat is I'm about to say something. Don't get upset and don't disagree with me, because they can't handle disagreement.
No, they sure can. Again, a lot of this, and just go back, like a lot of this does come out of like toxic shame and whatnot, which causes people to be all insecure and believe that they themselves are broken. And so they have to do this like extra overcompensating type of stuff, right? And a lot of it comes from religion and teaching them that they are broken, so they have to do all this extra stuff. And one of the big, and especially too, like in religious circles, people disagreeing with you when you're so used to being in religious, like hyper religious communities. No, you don't disagree with people, right? Everybody, when people say that something is true or whatever, you nod along. Yeah, because we're all in the same community. We're not allowed to disagree, and so that is something they're just not. They're not good at disagreeing with each other, because they don't think for themselves. So everything is just all about what they're supposed to think.
And they can't, like, emotionally, they can't handle it. So the drama to them is you just don't agree, or you don't like how I'm about to say this. And so that was that manipulative. There was a lot of like manipulation like that.
On a first date.
Yes. I mean, one guy on a first date, as we sat down, a lot of them just like lead with.
Jeez, Patty, we said, let me see where to go. I said, I had both my babies at home. Really? Oh my God. One on land and two by water. No, okay. So one on land, one in water. So I would choose the same thing with the knowledge I have today. I had a big occasion with natural things when I left Christianity. Wow. Yeah, that's tough. My goodness. Yeah. Wow. That is crazy. I couldn't imagine. I mean, in situations like that, part of me is like, I can understand not wanting to be in a hospital. Right. But at the same time, this is a very traumatic thing for your body to go through. You kind of need the professionals to be there with, in case of whatever, but damn, that's crazy.
With manipulation, like, so this one guy I sat down and he was like, wow, you're so much more beautiful in person than your photos. And I was like, thanks. Even though that's in my mind, I'm like, that's a fucking weird thing to say.
Yeah.
And
your photos are ugly. Okay. I don't know what were you cross-eyed or something? What were you doing? Were you looking at your nose when they were taking the like, why did you look so stupid in your photo? You look good though. Here. I'm glad. I thought you were gonna look like those photos and be just a whoa. Oh no.
I mean, I guess it's better than saying you're so photogenic, but he was like, and then I was like, thank you. And then he goes,
you're so photogenic. That's funny. People could totally take photos of you. Good. I don't know.
Do I look better than in my photos?
Oh, looking.
And I actually.
Oh, okay. Doulas help in hospitals and birthing centers too. Okay, thank you. I've never heard that term before.
Yeah, looking for comment, and I clocked it, and I kind of like forgot that I had to be in character, and it was so annoying that he did that. I just kind of looked at him, and I was really honest, and I was like, no, you don't.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I straight up was like, you don't.
Were you able to get back into character after that?
Hold on. What was the thing you said? I'm sorry. I'm like interrupting.
Then in my photos.
Oh, looking.
And I actually,
right away.
yeah, but he was like, and then I was like, thank you. And then he goes, do I look better than in my photos?
Oh,
Oh,
looking
God.
And
for
I
compliments
actually,
right away.
yeah, looking for comment. And I clocked it and I kind of like forgot that I had to be in character. And it was so annoying that he did that. I just kind of looked at him and I was really honest. And I was like, no, you don't.
Yeah, about the same. I don't know. I don't know what you want here. It's like, it's funny when, and you can tell some people do this. They will give compliments so that they get them back. Like they want the compliment, and so a lot of them will do this thing, especially in conservative circles for some reason, because they think that like if they give you a compliment, that means you're owed one at that point. It's like some way of them like helping their confidence or whatever. So they're just asking, literally asking for a compliment from her.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I straight up was like, you don't.
Were you able to get back into character after that? Or
That was not
I'm-
really feminine of you, by the way.
Yeah, because you're not supposed to talk back. You're not supposed to like, you're just supposed to like kiss their ass. Is what
Yeah.
they're looking for. Which, and in general, like if I'm interviewing someone, I'm like my emotions, my opinions, my thoughts, like that takes the back seat. And if I'm really interviewing and profiling someone, I'm trying to understand them.
Mhm.
So when he asked me that and I said that, that was like, I got that one thing out. And then I was like, okay, focus. Like you're
Mhm.
trying.
Shit. I'm sorry. Stupid. What are you doing? Yes, of course you are much better looking than your photos. Wow. I mean, you were just, wow. Do you work out? How big are your biceps? Wow. Can I squeeze it? Let me squeeze your bicep.
trying to understand this person. So
Yeah.
like, who cares? Who gives a shit what he says?
We're not supposed to have opinions, much less opposing opinions. Yeah, no, exactly.
About me.
Where would they take you?
Very nice, normal place, like normal, good date spots.
Did anyone
Lower East
ever
Side.
Nice, normal places. Like, what is that? Oh, dates, but so just like for dinner, right?
Go up
I-
with like a red hat or
No,
like a gun?
no, but one of them told me an
Gear.
interesting story, like about his MAGA hat, and he was basically explaining, like, you know, how he was talking about how excited he was for Trump to win. I pretty much knew over the summer before the election they were going to win because they were so much more excited to vote and save America than like the
Oh.
Democrats were excited to vote and save America. Like just their energy about it was
Heck, like I said, yeah, you look like a dork. So much better in person. That's great.
like winning. And this guy was like, yeah, I can't wait to wear my MAGA hat. It's so empowering. And I was like, oh, really? Why?
It's so empowering. That is so weird that they think of it that way. But I mean, but it makes sense though that they would do that. Like, I am gonna totally piss off all of those libs, yeah, that see me.
You know, people, you know, and he's like, you know, just the way people interpret it, it's not what it means. And I was like, okay, tell me more. And he basically was like, yeah, if you come to like a MAGA rally and you say I'm a Democrat, but I'm like interested, people will be like welcoming and tell you like whatever you want to know. But if you wear a MAGA hat and you're just like sitting on the streets of New York, people will tell you to fuck yourself. And I actually was like, yeah, that's true. I've done that. Like I've literally told a guy in a MAGA hat.
But you
to
didn't
fuck
say that on
himself.
the date.
No, I didn't say that. But I was like, yeah, there were these moments where
But there's reasons for that, dude. Like, it's so funny that they'll sit there and say stuff like that because they're just like, we are very open to people that are that don't think exactly like us, which is like, and there's just such a difference to somebody that is like, oh, I'm liberal and I'm like open to new ideas or whatever, and somebody wearing a MAGA hat that's clearly not open to jack shit. Okay, you know, they're not open to anything. They're not like they're not, you know. I don't know, maybe making up their mind about, you know, maybe liberal politics are good or maybe leftist politics are good. No, they've made up their mind, you know, and they've got like a literal white supremacist slogan on their hat.
they made points. Like that's
That's
you
a good
have a good
point.
yes, like that's true. That's true. I have called out people for just
You know, I recently met
Yeah, Bob was saying it's love bombing. Exactly. And that's funny because like that is their thing, right? And which again, I think is why they seem to think like woke mind virus and all this type of stuff, because they're the one there's, oh, it's a social, you know, being gay or whatever is a social contagion, because their stuff is social contagions. You know what I mean? Like they do the love bombing, they do the manipulative stuff, they do it's all, and so they think that everything else is like the stuff that they do, and it's like, no, you know, being gay is not something that you're convinced to be, man. It's just, it doesn't work that way. But they project all that stuff on everybody.
Someone who was interviewing in our office to become a client, and he told us right ahead, like, I'm very conservative. And, to me, it's like, he lives in DC, and I was like, oh, I don't know what that means yet. Like, or maybe he's Republican. Like I said, we certainly have Republican clients. We have plenty of Republican matches that want to meet them. This is not.
Yeah.
And when I say Republican, I'm talking more like Mitt Romney Republican.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Mitt Romney. That's Massachusetts. I'm from Massachusetts.
And you are?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
I grew up in Boston.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Wow, you're like super liberal. And but anyway, so like I hear more like the
I thought she was from Russia. What's going on? No, I'm just kidding.
Mitt Romney
Clearly, she moved from Russia to Boston and then now to New York, I guess.
Republicans.
Yeah.
And anyway, so this gentleman, he called us. We had a meeting with him. Then we had Zoom, and I was like, how we, ever since the 2015, we've had to ask people like, what's your political affiliation? How important that is to you? And we've certainly met people that are completely apathetic. Those are great matches for other people that are apathetic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. But this gentleman was like, I'm conservative and I want her to be conservative. And like, I asked you, like, well, what does conservatism mean to you?
Yeah.
And he kind of decided to use an anecdote. And, he's like, I hate liberal women. They're all fat. Okay.
Liberal women are all fat. Of course they would say something like, God, they're so simple.
I don't know, maybe I have like Republican face, so I don't think he realizes like, oh, I'm a liberal, but okay. And he then goes into like, even during the pandemic, the way they treated me, because I was conservative. And I was like, what am I missing here? And I asked like that, I'm like, what am I missing here? How would anyone know you're conservative during the pandemic? And he goes, well, I wasn't wearing a mask. And I was like, in 2020 or in 2021? And he goes, in the summer of 2020. And I said, I don't know why this came out of my mouth, but it just did.
Mm-hmm.
I said, did you not wear a mask because you wanted someone to engage with you because maybe you were feeling lonely? And, even negative engagement is engagement.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, go fuck yourself. And he just like hung up the call.
Whoa.
But I do believe that if you are, and then maybe this is a bias, but I think that some people who don't wear masks during a certain period in the pandemic, just like some people who might wear a MAGA hat outside of that conservative rally environment, I think they do want to be engaged with.
Yeah, it's about engagement. It's about engagement because also something that I really learned.
But I feel like a lot of times they want to be upsetting. So like a lot of times, because you're saying that like there are MAGA people that like are open to having different ideas. That's crazy, but I feel like they will do that so that a lot of times they just want to be upsetting. I'm not saying that's every single time, but a lot of times they like having the dialogue, so that they can say stuff that they know is effed up. But I don't know.
And one of my big insight, I had a lot of big insights from my investigation, but it's the rejection of their belief system by everyone else that makes them feel isolated, makes them seek out these online communities where they get radicalized, and their politics are emotional. So like whatever their personal
because and she's absolutely right about that. And that's almost what is so creepy about where we're at as far as like everybody being able to kind of like be programmed by their phones and just like watching and stuff. Like it's so easy, back in the day when you had like the Hitler and all that, they had to like do so much more work to brainwash people, right? Nowadays, it's like they can just get people to brainwash themselves, and these algorithms are helping them do it because we're such emotional beings, dude. Like we will sit there and the algorithm clocks how long you look at something before you click it, right? It knows all that stuff, saves all that data, and then it uses that to like feed you more stuff to get you more engaged. And it's like, I notice even from my feeds that there's like certain Christian stuff that'll come up, and it's like the Christian, what is like a Fundie page or whatever. And I always end up clicking on it. So it shows it to me more because a lot of the stuff they're saying is like atheists are stupid because of blah, blah, blah. So I end up clicking that one. And so I see that twice as often, right? Because it's clocking the fact that I get a, it's an emotional reaction that I then click the thing. And so when it comes to right-wing stuff like that, everything is emotionally driven. The fact that they are, angry at all the brown people just coming in, stealing their jobs, they're uncomfortable with their masculinity. So they are all angry at gay people and trans folks and all that type of stuff. It's all completely emotion and insecurity driven.
Failures are that they don't know how to grow from. Like they're lacking like self-growth tools. And I'm not like forgiving that. I'm just simply stating like they are so insecure and they don't feel good about themselves. And
No, they hate themselves. And that's why I think they get so mad when other people don't. They hate that, like, the people that they would want, that they would bully, that those people don't hate themselves like they do. You know what I mean? So they get so mad. You can't just be out here being okay with who you are when you're not even, you're weird. You're weird, and you're this weird and okay with yourself. What is it? No, I hate that person. Like, that's how they think, because they hate themselves, right? Because that's a lot of times what religion does, and just these hyper masculine spaces like make you not okay with yourself. They make you be like, oh man, I should be more tough. I should be more masculine. I should suffer more. I'm just not suffering enough, and I deserve to suffer because that's what makes you a good person. Or whatever, suffering.
And these like the red pill content gives them a reason for why they feel bad without making it about their emotions, because they're not like emotionally literate. They're not expressing their emotions like verbally. Like they don't know how to that's not a way that they've been taught to communicate.
You're not allowed. If you're a man and you're emotional, no, hell no. Crying, no, you're not allowed to do that. You push that shit down. You push it down in your gut, and then you just never address it. And again, that's something that causes toxic shame, because when you pressure each other into believing that your emotions are bad, right? Then you internalize, I am bad, I am broken, I am garbage, I'm trash, whatever. And that's why everything ends up being, well, what are you doing? You have to do stuff to earn your self-esteem. You can't just be okay with yourself and all your flaws and everything. No, you can only be okay with yourself if you're crushing it, like that's all that's allowed, right? Yeah, a lot of this stuff just causes toxic shame. And then when people have toxic shame like this, they're so easy to manipulate, because they're just, you can just poke in there and make them insecure about, I don't know, immigrants coming over and stuff like that, or just somebody in a bathroom that you don't think belongs there or whatever, things like that. And it just gets them all worked up, and then they click twice as often, right? And it's just that's what's happening here.
We don't condition men. Like traditional masculinity is not about expressing how you feel.
Yeah.
It's like it's very limited. It's like you can express how you feel through like violence, anger, or like stoicism. So it's like you just like, just don't like you could.
That's not what that's so funny. That I love stoicism, but stoicism does not say to do stuff like that. It doesn't say don't be emotional ever. Like, that's not.
And so they because like in a liberal bubble like New York City, we are
and when I say that, I mean the actual philosophy of stoicism, because these red pill weirdos have like completely changed what stoicism actually is, which stoicism is much more, I want to say it's like Buddhism. I mean, yeah, it's kind of like Buddhism or Hinduism. It has like a lot of those same kind of beliefs of meditation and things like that. But yeah, it's not what these red pill people think it is.
Simply going to reject someone, or I mean, I think in general, if someone were to just outwardly say like, I'm a neo-Nazi, like you would reject them because that's violent.
Well,
and
there's
that's
also
hateful.
a social consequence.
Yes. And that's why they don't disclose their political beliefs to their friends. They don't want to lose their friends. So they hide how they feel.
Which is so sad, dude. If you have political, this is what I was saying earlier about the MAGA person that I know. And when they say stuff, they actually think it's like it slips out like, oh crap, I shouldn't have said that. Because they know their beliefs are shit. They're cruel. They're awful. A lot of times they're just being a mean person. Like, that's just what it is. They love the cruelty for some reason. It's like they get off on that.
Their political beliefs are a way for them. They hate themselves is what I felt. I felt extreme, almost like they felt like
Yeah, Theo says stoicism is generally to accept and embrace what you can't change. Right. Yeah. So radical acceptance. I want to say that they kind of have like the detachment stuff too, detach from expectations, right? Because that's a form of suffering. It's a lot of it sounds like Buddhism, honestly. They just kind of, as far as I could tell, they kind of just have like different quotes and stuff. But apparently it was when I want to say the Greeks or whatever, they interacted with some Hindu folks, and Marcus Aurelius was, I guess I think they were. I don't know if I don't know exactly the history of it, but he interacted with like Hindu people and really liked their philosophies, and so he brought it back to Greece or whatever, and that's where because I thought it was so odd that like Buddhism, Hinduism, and all that type of stuff is on like one side of the earth, and then you got like Greece and all that which is a completely different culture, yet they managed to have a lot of the same beliefs and a lot of the same philosophy. But that was why. It's because he was taught this stuff by Hindu people.
trauma victims to me without identifying that way. And I like hesitate to say that because I don't feel bad for them. And they are victimizing themselves is really what I was feeling. They feel like
It's
victims.
ironic.
They feel like victims. They hate themselves. And so it comes out, they project it out. So
Which it's so I mean that is a lot. I mean that's how abuse happens quite often. Is people that were abused then are like feel like they are broken, they are bad, they are whatever, and then it's crazy. A lot of times the way that your beliefs about yourself is another thing. It's like we're so identity driven as far as our behaviors go, and then you'll do things that that you subconsciously believe a broken bad person would do because that's what you've decided you are, right? So a lot of times it can end up with alcohol issues and things like that because they're like, well, but now a broken person would drink a ton of alcohol, and so that's what happened to you, right? And they do it subconsciously, and they're not consciously saying like, oh, I got to do this because I'm broken. That's not the way they're saying, but a lot of times they're trying to get away from themselves in their own brain too, in order to cope. And so alcohol, drugs, stuff like that happens a lot.
So the more hateful their politics are, that's a reflection of how much they hate themselves. They're not aware enough to understand that. And that's why they're afraid to lose their friends. So then they pretend that they're still liberal so they can keep their friends because they really care about social connection. They don't say how they're really feeling because they don't know. And then they go online and they go to these independent media guys who basically like fake empower how they feel because they're like, it's like a different way to express being a victim is saying, oh, I'm emasculated. You're not emasculated. You feel like a victim of something that has no name.
I have so many.
You're not allowed to say that. Like if they will sit there and say that they'll act like they are victims, but they hate when anybody says that they are victims. So they believe they are victims, but like they're victims that are silenced, which is that much worse. It's like a victim that can't even like grieve about their victimhood or whatever, right? Because that's something they hate. So they're instead of doing that, it comes out in this anger and hatred and bigotry.
Follow-up questions for you.
Sure.
Hey, that's it for this week's Ask a Matchmaker. Stay tuned next week for part 2.
12. All right, cool. Or not 112, but I mean, we've been going for about an hour and spent math big streak it through here again. I'm serious. You got to walk through here with clothes on at least once, okay? Maybe try a tux. All right, do something like that. I like the little bow you got tied around your thing down there. So anyway, and if you want to tie stuff around your thing, just go to. I know it took me forever to do this. AdamandEve.com. Enter code word Brentley at checkout. Go to AdamandEve.com. Enter code word Brentley BRENTLY at checkout to get 50% off almost any one item. 6 free movies, 3 free gifts, and free shipping on the whole order. Go to AdamandEve.com and enter that code word Brentley. AdamandEve.com is America's #1 adult toy dispensary. They got everything. Okay, they got all the sizes, all the shapes, all the vibration. Yeah, all the vibrations. I don't know. It got everything, right? For every hole except for ears. I think that you get your Q-tips from like Amazon probably, but everything else, all the other holes, right? You got stuff for the pleasure of those holes, right? So go to adamandeve.com, enter that code word Bentley, and get your butt some stuff. All right. So I think, let me see here. They got a, where's it part 2? Oh, there's part 2. All right, cool. I guess we're just gonna do this one today. All right.
Previously
I'm having fun. Y'all, is this all right? Y'all liking this? The members actually, well, never mind. I'm not gonna give it away. But yeah, if you're ever not really digging what we're watching, let me know, and we can figure something out. You know, I try to keep this open on all sides. You know what I mean?
on Ask a Matchmaker.
So you went undercover.
What creates that belief system spectrum? Like what flows like it. To be clear, I was looking at the outwardly. They don't disclose that I'm a neo-Nazi. Like a friend, they felt like trauma victims to me without. And
so I feel like this is where we're at, right?
Their political beliefs are a way for them. They hate themselves. Is what I felt. I felt extreme, almost like they felt like trauma victims to me without identifying that way. And I like hesitate to say that because I don't feel bad for them. And they are victimizing themselves is really what I was feeling. They feel like victims.
Ironic.
They feel like victims. They hate themselves. And so it comes out, they project it out. So the more hateful their politics are, that's a reflection of how much they hate themselves. They're not aware enough to understand that.
Yeah.
So and that's why they're afraid to lose their friends. So then they pretend that they're still liberal so they can keep their friends because they really care about social.
That's why they got all this like suffer stuff, man, right? They're constantly like, we deserve to suffer. I deserve to suffer. You got to suffer, you know, and they get so mad when people are like, hey, people shouldn't have to suffer, you know, to live life. Yeah, you do. Life is pain, right? You need to hate yourself, okay? And then beat yourself up. And then if you accomplish all the stuff you're supposed to accomplish by beating yourself up all the time, and then trying to impress yourself in your own mind by doing everything to crush the day or whatever, without accepting yourself, then that's when you're allowed to have self-esteem. Sad.
Connection. They don't say how they're really feeling because they don't know. And then they go online and they go to these independent media guys who basically like fake empower how they feel because they're like, it's like a different way to express being a victim is saying, oh, I'm emasculated. You're not emasculated. You feel like a victim of something that has no name because like, and so
I have so many follow-up questions for you.
Sure. And so then it's basically like the more isolated they are, the more hateful self-hate they feel, the more they hate everybody else, the more they go online to feel like validated and affirmed by these online groups. So really the biggest insight I had was, and I went to a neo-Nazi meeting with one of these guys.
What? My gosh. See, this is what I'm saying. What the safety is just dropping off. Jeez Louise. Like first she's going on dates with these guys, 14 dates with these right-wing MAGA people that believe she shouldn't have the right to vote. But now she's going to like literal Nazi meetups. Jeez Louise.
A first date?
No, not on a first date. But
would have been crazy.
Like he just like brought me because he thought I might be he shouldn't have.
There are
brought me.
neo-Nazi meetings in Manhattan.
Yeah. It was not in Manhattan. But it was in New York. It was in one of the boroughs.
Wow.
And
we don't know anything.
That's
I
insane.
feel so stupid right
they
now.
spent this meeting
I feel so stupid right now for asking this.
complaining about their wives and girlfriends. So what I realized was you feel like you need to have this extreme violent point of view to justify having relationship problems. It's like you don't actually need to be a neo-Nazi to bitch about your girlfriend, but they need to feel masculine about talking about even relationships, I think. Like
So they weren't talking about their hate for
Weird.
someone who, you know.
No, I mean, maybe they do that at their
What a place for a date. Jeez Louise. Yeah. I know. You get your robe when you go in the door.
other meetings, but the one that I was present for was like an hour, and it was like one of the first people who started talking was talking about how he was having trouble with his girlfriend who was still working. Like there was some relationship problem, and they all started
when she was working a job. My partner still works. Jeez, the way I almost wonder too, because of how insecure they are about everything. That's why they want women to be completely reliant on them. Like that's why they hate like no fault divorce and things like that. I've heard them say like they want to go back to a time where women aren't just allowed to just divorce men, right? Because they don't want them to be able to leave, right? Because they're so they're so afraid of rejection and things like that, that they will sit there and force women to be in this like position where they cannot have any autonomy to get out if they want to.
Like comforting him and being like, yeah, I've been through that. And they talked about the obedience and the training. They
Jesse's face
Tons of mine. My name is Adolf and I'm an alcoholic.
needs to have its own like camera.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish I could see it. But so it was interesting, obviously, and horrible because they basically were just teaching him how to have an abusive relationship. But
What
like,
were they saying to him?
I mean, they talked about like emotional punishment as a way to like punish her for disagreeing with you. Like for example,
For disagreeing with you. What? Jeez, well, you don't have to think stuff. What are you talking about? It's crazy.
she would go out with her friends when he didn't want her to. And then they were like, okay, like they were teaching
Hi, Adolf.
him like narcissistic abuse cycles. So they would say, okay, if
My name is Marshall Mathers and I'm an alcoholic. I got a disease and they don't know what to call it.
she goes out with her friends, and she comes back, don't speak to her. Like don't speak to her for 3 days.
Literally narcissism. Yeah.
Yeah. It's teaching and but reward her in 3 days. You can start rewarding her if she's done enough, like she's done enough nice things for you. Like, has she been cooking?
Oh man.
And they're describing this conservative, like ideal feminine woman who's submissive to the man's needs.
I'm literally I don't even know. My brain is broken right now.
They just want to
I got nothing. I got I don't even know. What is happening?
hang out with
I
each
want to
other.
understand.
Yes,
They don't want a wife. They don't want like in
Well,
reality.
I
May I
don't know.
ask a few
May the hippest what? Hold on. May the hippest hoppest leave you candy and leave your enemies in the wake of colored dye. Sign Easter Bunny. Wow, that is a brutal. Is that the one from it's the Easter Bunny from that damn, what was it? The Search for the Holy Grail. It's that Easter. Was that an Easter Bunny? That was just a murder bunny, right? That was just anyway.
few questions.
Yes.
Because I want to understand like where this comes from. So
Sure.
some of these are yes or no questions, but like, did some of the men that you went out with, did their moms work or were they stay-at-home moms?
I would say like half and half.
Okay. Did some of these men that you went out with, were they raised in a religion or is this something that we're picking up as part of the identity?
Mostly like casual religion.
Okay.
So like for example, I think
Really,
it's
that's so interesting. She said it was mostly casual religion. I would have thought that it would have been more like fundamentalist and stuff because a lot of those beliefs are so easily translatable into fascist beliefs.
the desire.
Deep state, what's going on? How you doing? So just type all that C on it. Just as was hitting send.
For social connection. Like one of them, I went to church on a date with one guy, and I asked him like,
It's like, will you go? You want to go out sometime? You know, maybe get a hymnal and sing a couple tunes with me from the hymnal at church. How are your knees? Can you do some kneeling? You got to keep up. All right. They tell you to kneel, then they tell you to stand. And you kind of got to be able to, know what you need to judge it and stuff. So it's you see how good you are at kneeling.
is church a big part of your life? And he said he didn't really consider it a huge part of his life growing up, but his mom died from cancer when he was in high school, and her church friends
Hashtag all bunnies are Easter bunnies. That's true. Yeah, I never thought of it that way.
were the ones who started cooking for him and his dad, like when his mom died. So it was the church community that he knows is taking care of his family when his mom died. So he associates those family values with church. And you know, churches provide community for people. That's like the best part of being part of like a religious community. It's
The only good part, I would add, I think.
a true
Mhm.
community,
Right.
hopefully.
Yeah, kind of. But see, there's the thing. It's the thing with church community, and I guess it can go either way. It really depends on the church. But for the most part, when you're talking about, especially with like fundamentalist circles and stuff, the community is not the community. Like it's just it's just like smoke and mirrors. It looks to you like it's a community, right? But it's this like community that is like you have to do everything the way they say to do it all the time. Otherwise, you're not part of the community anymore. So it's not a real community because like if you have a group of friends, you want your group of friends to be able to be themselves, right? And then just we could all be different. We could still hang out and everything. Like, no, you can't be yourself. You have to be whoever they say you got to be.
Yeah. And then my last question here is like, did the men that you went out with, did they have friends outside of this community of the neo-Nazi conservative red pill?
So most of their friends were not parts of these, like in real life, they had liberal friends that they are masking their beliefs around.
That is so weird, man. That is weird that they have like regular people friends, but they have to pretend to not have the beliefs that they have in order to be friends with people because they know. And that shouldn't that just tell you something right there? You know, if you're having to lie to everybody about your beliefs because if people actually knew, then they wouldn't. You know, then they would be like, oh, they're disgusting. They have like these sick, disgusting beliefs about people. Like, doesn't that tell you something? Jeez Louise.
They like code switch. They know exactly what to say to sound liberal. Like one of these guys owns a restaurant in the Lower East Side. He's going to be employing all the people that someone super far right should hate, right? So like,
well, that's the funny thing too, is that like capitalism is liberal. It just is because you want everybody's money. You don't just want the white, straight, cisgendered Christian people's money. You want everybody's money. So you have to like like market your products or whatever it is to everybody because otherwise you're not going to get your money. And then you're not a good capitalist if you're not getting everybody's money, you know?
the two genders only people. You're definitely going to have like non-binary people working in a restaurant in the
Yeah.
Lower East Side. Like queer people are.
There's no Nazi bowling links. Really? Are you sure about that? I don't know. I'm sure. I bet you there's like that one, the bowling alley out in the middle of like Arkansas or something. I don't know.
We were.
Mhm.
And so when I was asking him, you know, do your political beliefs affect how you treat your employees? No, I love my game
She was like, we're going to need some evidence for that claim. Okay. You're making claims over here. We're going to need some supporting evidence to demonstrate that claim is actually accurate.
employees. So a lot of their beliefs are like, in theory, because on paper, it would, they're hating groups and hating this way of organizing people would explain why they feel so bad, if that makes sense. It's like they've picked up these political beliefs, like it feels like very recently. Because it only took a few questions for me to be able to start finding cracks in what they think they believe
Mhm.
and what they're actually doing in real life.
Because they don't, that's the weird thing. And again, I think it's because they know that their beliefs are untenable. You're always going to come back to some kind of self-eating belief system if you believe that like people shouldn't, trying to think of a good example. Oh, you know what I was saying? Like, it's almost like the categorical imperative, right? If you believe that doing a particular behavior to another group of people is okay, like removing their rights or whatever, or being okay with, I don't know, them being like just scooped up and sent to some prison in a different country that's famous for torture, and Photoshop a picture of a tattoo that's obviously fake or whatever. Like, if you support that kind of cruelty, you have to ignore the fact that it's like, what if something like that happens to me? What if I end up being the minority, right? Because everybody's going to be old at some point. So everybody's going to be that minority, right? So if you're able to just throw out these other people that you think are not helpful for society or whatever, then you have to think about it in terms of like that could like loop around and hit me, right? Because everybody's got something, You know, it's like they're saying earlier about the leopards eating your face or whatever. I never thought the leopards would eat my face, and it's like when they vote for the leopards eat face party or whatever. Because that's just the way it always. It reminds me too of what was that? The Dark Knight. I think it's like a good example of the categorical imperative. Remember the first scene, and spoilers if you haven't seen the first scene of the movie The Dark Knight. The whole point is Joker sets up this bank robbery thing, and each person has their job, right? And then each person, it's like in order, and then each person like shoots the person and takes them out. That's once they're done with their job, so that there's less of, you know, they don't have as many to cut in, right? But each one is like taking, and that gets down to the last guy, and he's like, okay, so he's like, now that I'm done, I know that you're going to take me out, because that's what that's what's happening here, right? Until finally he gets taken out, and then it's just Joker. Everybody else is taken out, and just the Joker robbed the whole bank basically by himself, because he had everybody take each other out. It's just a good example, I think, of the categorical imperative, because you should have recognized once they were like, hey, and take this guy out, you know, and then there'll be like one less cut, you know what I mean? Should have been like, couldn't that happen to me? If that's a generalized rule, that we can just take out people once they're done doing the job, so that we got fewer cuts or whatever, if you like cutting up the money in fewer ways. Couldn't that just be me? Couldn't I just be the next one that gets taken out? You know, like it's just I don't know. I just feel like it's a good example of that sort of thing. Like, and they should have thought of that on like a moral basis right away. But, you know, just the last guy, I guess, because he saw it happen like 4 times, and then it was like, okay, you know what? I think somebody's going to take me out, because that's what happened to all the other people.
Like they're around all the people they think they hate, and they don't hate those
Pandora's Pinata, what's going on? Where you been? Jeez.
people individually,
Mhm.
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
What would you say to a woman in New York who is currently listening to this podcast, likely leans liberal, or maybe she's independent, wants to date men who, I don't even know if to share necessarily political affiliation, but certainly like the same moral compass? How would she avoid meeting these sort of men, or what kind of questions could she ask in the first 2
Stay off the right-wing dating app. That'd be job 1, right?
dates to make sure that it's not one of these maskers?
These maskers.
I don't even know if that's the right question, because I found that even the guys who I've dated in the past who were politically liberal, they had some of these insecurities. So I think a lot of my exes prepared me, like, and I'm like very grateful for all my relationships, and I aligned with them politically, but they still had these insecurities about like my career, the fact that I'm very purpose driven, and they weren't. They maybe had high paying jobs, or maybe they didn't.
Oh, they were like insecure of her that she's got too much money, she's too pretty, and she's too too professional, like too good. She's just too good. She's just better than everybody.
Make as much money as they thought. But there's something that's bigger than the politics. And there is, I think, an overall masking and like an identity crisis with young men, because and it's the most extreme because liberal white women are the most hated people when you're talking about white supremacist men.
Yeah.
They hate white liberal women the most, because we've betrayed this white heteropatriarchy. So we, the rest of society is like,
I don't think they're the most hated by the white supremacists. I'm just, I think she's right that they are very hated. I don't think most, when we're talking about white liberal women.
Being a white liberal white woman, you're basically a white man, right? Like white feminism sucks, and we're basically white men. But white men, they are like, oh, you've betrayed us because you're just pointing the finger at us as the problem. And they're not articulating it that way, but what they feel is, for the centuries that we've all been living with, we've been living with supremacy. And you look at and they're obsessed with like white family units, and what these guys are obsessed with creating like healthy
hence like the immigrant stuff, like, they're like, there's not going to be any white people left if we do it. Yeah, they are really weird about that that crap.
positive white identity because now because of woke, being a white man is just bad. And they can't escape that. They don't know how to create any other kind of identity because if the whole world works
But Burns said, I always saw bowling as an opposite racism, bunch of rednecks getting blasted by big black balls. Bunch of white pins, right? That's
for you, you've never had to
That's funny.
change how you identify. You've never had
That's like a good comedy bit. Like that could do that could be a good stand-up routine there.
to create your own narrative. So they really struggle with having their own like they don't even know how to create their own self-concept. So basically it's like for centuries we've been living with supremacy.
Yeah, because they have all the supposes. They can't be themselves. Right? They just know I'm supposed to be this, I'm supposed to be that, I'm supposed to be like this, I'm supposed to not cry, I'm supposed to be masculine, I'm supposed to be with a blonde-haired, blue-eyed white woman, whatever. I'm supposed to do all this stuff. And there's no room with that many supposeds for you to be you. You just end up being whatever like facsimile to like whatever it is that you think should be in this group or whatever. Like you're just making yourself that, which is, that's why a lot of times they say like, oh, I want less of me and more of Jesus or whatever. Like, just get me out of there. I don't want the me. The me is the bad part. It's the Jesus in me. And then you end up just doing a bunch of stuff that all the other religious people tell you you're supposed to do in order to be accepted by the group, because that's how it works,
They've living with supremacy. And now, and recently, we've started creating tools for all these different groups to start creating empowering identities, empowering narratives based on whatever oppressive systems like they've been forced to live with for centuries. And we've basically and white women, we still get something because we get to say like, well, we still were oppressed and we only just got the right to vote. So we're creating our own identity and we have these new tools to empower ourselves. And now we have bank accounts. Now we get to have jobs. But if you're a white guy,
Hey, Carrie, what's going on? How's it going? Lurking and working. No, I got it.
There are no new tools for you. You're stuck in the 50s because we said you don't need anything. You have everything. You're the most privileged. So we kind of like fucked up in the sense that everyone is way more emotionally advanced out of necessity from trauma, from these oppressive systems. And we basically have, in a sense, left them behind emotionally. Not that it's anyone else's job to like help them grow, but
because that's the thing. Yeah, just because you have been through trauma or whatever, like the trauma is not your fault. It's not, but it is your responsibility. You don't get to just be like, oh, it's not fair, or whatever. Like you still need to take care of your own shit,
We just have not created, from what I've seen, and I come from like a mental health background, like, and I'm looking at this like, what did I miss? Like I cover mental health as like a journalist. I've created these tools for young people. And I was really talking to these guys, like, what did I miss that I thought I was including everybody? And these guys, their emotions are like, I am so forgotten. I am so excluded because I'm a bad person. And I can never be good. And it's
toxic shame right there. That is literally toxic shame. And so that's sad when you have toxic shame lead you to that, to those ends, because you're like, oh, well, what would a bad person believe? Oh, well, that, all of this group of people are evil and bad and we shouldn't do whatever, they internalize that and then start believing that stuff because it feels, I guess, like an outlet for their shame, it's just sad.
We haven't created the right. And
say, who's the chick on the left? I don't know. She's just there hanging out. She seems perpetually confused. What the fuck? What is happening? What are you talking about? It's like, I don't know who she is. I actually think she was like, she's with the actual podcast. So this is the guest here. Her name is Vera. She is the guest. And they said to ask a matchmaker, the other host, that she had invited her back. And so I guess she's kind of just like a sometimes side host or something. I'm not really sure, but she's not a guest though. This is the guest anyway.
I mean, it's their job to create those tools. But I think that's an extreme version, but like that exists, I think I mean, a lot of men left the Democratic Party this past election because they did feel emasculated by the Democratic Party, and trying to understand what that meant was really interesting because I don't know if the right
Why would they feel emasculated by the Democrat Party? That is just so strange to me. Like, what is it with people? This is where I think like politics gets into this dumb space where like, it's got to like match your identity or something. It's got to make you feel masculine. We're talking about the rules that govern the country, the policies that we put in place so that, hospitals function and water stays clean, and there isn't broken glass in your TV dinner and stuff. Like what are the policies that make all that stuff work out? And you're like, but it needs to make me feel masculine. Why? It's fucking politics. Like why the hell does it have to do this? Why does it have to sit there and pat you on the head and make you feel masculine? We're talking about just making fucking rules. So stupid.
question is, how do you avoid it? I think like for going back to your initial question of like, if you're dating, how do you avoid that masking? I think there's a general insecurity among men because we haven't created new definitions and narratives of what masculinity looks like. And so like the most traditional form of like masculinity historically.
I don't know why would we need to do like I just don't understand. Like we need to create a masculinity so that they can not be assholes or something? Like what? I just, it seems so odd to me. But the real problem is, as far as I can tell, it almost seems like the toxic masculinity thing, where what these guys think of masculinity, they think it's an act. It's just, it's all the supposed. You're supposed to not cry. You're supposed to be tough. You're supposed to lift weights. You're supposed to like, be mean to women or whatever, so that you can make them insecure, because then that makes them more likely to go out with you or whatever, right? All this type of stuff you're supposed to do if you're a man. Men are supposed to do this, and it's like that's the real problem. There is no supposed to do anything. We're just people, right? And you're supposed to do what you feel is right for you to do. We shouldn't have this stupid pressure of, oh, you got to be like, you got to fit, you check all these boxes if you are a man.
That we know here in America is like a white supremacist if you're looking at identity politics. So it's like we need new versions of masculinity, and I really went into this being like, maybe like I can fix them, like maybe I can teach them, but actually they have to be incentivized to start like a self-growth process.
And well, I mean, and Andrew, you said like women don't care about masculinity. I mean, if there's nothing wrong with being like attracted to like somebody that does check those boxes or whatever, right? As long as they check those boxes naturally. It's not, it's not like they're trying to be something that they are not, so that they can feel like, or they can present that they are more masculine, right? And it's okay to be attracted to people like that, but the problem is the pressure that we put on each other to be whatever this pretend thing is that we call masculinity.
And so I unfortunately, like, I don't have an answer, because I think what I found is like, we can't be the ones that fix them. And I think this is like a bigger problem, like culturally.
I think it's also speaking to like the self-advocacy, like what you said, it's not our job to fix that sort of culture, to learn more and unpack and become more emotionally intelligent.
Yeah.
It's not your job to have to do that for men. That's what's so weird. It's like they're all about taking responsibility until it's about taking actual responsibility. It's insane. It's funny. Burns said, with the back of my hand straight to the moon, to the moon, Alice. It's so funny. I was just watching, my partner and I, I'd seen Smokey and the Bandit was on something. I want to say Netflix or something, right? And either one of us had really seen it, and so we were like, "Oh, let's watch this movie." And seen that dude, Jackie Gleason was the freaking was the cop or whatever. And my God, that movie has a lot of stuff in it that I don't think would fly in these days, you know. But wow, it was still a pretty good movie. I enjoyed it, but like it was very masculine coded, I guess. I don't know, lots of colors, you know. It's a good old boyish movie, whatever, you know. To the point where they even had the freaking rebel flag on the Trans Am in the front. And did you know that because of the success of that movie, because there were so many similarities to that, I'm like, is this movie like based on the Dukes of Hazzard? You know, because that's what I was thinking. Like, where did this? Like, why are there so many similarities? I think his name is even Bo. You know, and then but yeah, they said that because of the success of Smokey and the Bandit, that's why they created that show. And so there was a lot of like homage. Anyway, I don't know what this has to do with anything, but we watched Smokey and the Bandit. I mean, I forgot what I was doing. What are we talking about?
I have a book coming out in a couple of weeks. And
Congrats.
thanks. And in the book, I actually try to promote this other version of masculinity called wholesome masculinity. And it's something that kind of I've been talking about for a few years, and now it's
He
solidified.
said Archie Bunker. Yeah. Well, another show that I don't think we could really do anymore. But like the weird part of Archie Bunker, it was funny because like my family hated Archie Bunker. I never watched myself. I liked the Jeffersons. That was the one that I enjoyed more. It's because I like that, you know, them the way that they could just mess with each other, just being mean to each other. But it's funny, right? You know, that's the vibe of the show. But in Archie Bunker, like the whole thing was that he was a conservative, but he was the idiot. He was the dumb one. You know, he's that character. Because I guess the guy that actually plays Archie was like a far left or farther left. He was a liberal or whatever, right? And so they were like making fun of conservatism. It was almost like that one. Damn it! Now, of course, I can't think. Stephen Colbert, and he did like the Colbert Report, where he was like pretending to be conservative, but it was like funny, right?
To find the book, but it was like, to me, a few examples of that is like fictionally Ted Lasso, right? Where you see a person. I don't know if you ever watched Ted Lasso. It's
Man,
a
I
really great,
I haven't seen it yet.
great show.
love Ted Lasso.
Everybody keeps telling me I need to see it. Y'all seen Ted Lasso? Is it pretty good? What do y'all think?
But what you see with Ted Lasso is that he, in the beginning, he's like kind of hesitant about therapy.
Mhm.
He has some trauma. You know, his father committed
Oh.
suicide when he was a teenager, and now he's kind of like dealing with that while trying to help his players be the best version of themselves. That's his words.
Mhm.
And that's a fictional, but then I do use like real life.
Oh, hey, if y'all want to hit that like button, I'd appreciate it. You know, it really does help get this stuff out there, you know. And if you want to share the show around, and if you're watching this after the fact, comment below and let me know if I got anything wrong, or you know, want to see more, you want to see me cover more stuff like this and all stuff like that, right? Hit that like button though, please. Appreciate it.
Examples of what I'm detecting as wholesome masculinity. Stanley Tucci has
What's going on? Jesus.
Pedro Pascal,
Oh,
Dev Patel,
Oh,
Tom Holland. To me, like these are versions of wholesome masculinity. Doug Emhoff.
Totally.
wait to Tom Holland. Oh, it's funny because like I keep there's like some I don't know if he was like a philosopher or something, Tom Holland, or some type of right wing, not right wing. I think he's like a Bible scholar or something. Anyway, named Tom Holland. So that's anytime I hear that in my show, because I'm so used to the Fundie shows, and she's like saying Tom Holland is a good masculine, a good version of masculinity. Whatever. I think she actually is talking about Spider-Man, right?
Tim Walz. And
I mean, I also would add that it's really important, I think, for women for the liberal women that you were asking about, like we have to take a step back and look in the mirror and think about like, how are we judging men? And like, what about us is rejecting things that we don't like? Like there's a lot of like the version of feminism that hates men as a collective, like that I would say is like part of the problem too.
I mean, wasn't that, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not like, you know, up on all of the different waves of feminism. They come in waves. And as far as I understand, that was like first wave feminism, right? Is the hating men just for being men thing, which is like kind of plays into the problems with the TERF community, because that's like a lot of them they see themselves as feminists, but then they like hate trans women because they're like they're men, they have a penis, so like whatever, like so that makes them automatically evil. But yeah, very unhelpful to just hate men like that or whatever. Not that like there are issues, of course, that need to be worked out, and men have a lot of historically had a lot of problems and everything like that. But like just hating men is not a solution,
And so I think, well, I just want to add, like, look, yes, it's important to identify wholesome masculinity, but like what internalized
I love men. I have trouble respecting many of them, though. Well, that's I get that. I do. I'm the same way.
misogyny do we have that is like learned from us competing with men, like in workspaces or whatever, and taking on some of those like toxic masculine traits? Like I think hating men is like a version of experiencing men who hate women, for example. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know
like,
what you mean.
So
I mean, that kind makes sense. Not necessarily. I wouldn't say that makes sense to hate men back or whatever when men hate women. But I'd probably have some distaste for those men, right?
I think there's also like, I think
bears see more cuddly. That's funny. Yeah, because there was that whole man versus bear thing. Wow, that pissed off so many of the red pill dude bro douchebag dudes. They're like, what are you talking about? Bears are mean and stuff, and they're like, but you can just play dead, and like half of them, like whether brown or black, I don't remember the color, but like certain bears will leave you alone if you play dead. Men don't. Okay, that's that you definitely, that's like the last thing you want to do. But no, just the statistics. Like what's statistically more likely to hurt women, a bear or a man? Always a man, always, right? So it was such an interesting, like a viral internet thing, I don't know what to call it, conversation, I guess, that the between a bear and a man, and like men just could not figure it out, like especially the far right there. What are you talking about? But makes good sense if you actually think of it statistically.
my question to you,
like bears have never like worn people's faces. You know what I mean? They've never worn, they've not that's not something the bears do,
my follow-up question, or in my mind, I'm wondering, okay, if I wanted a Ted Lasso, am I the person that would attract that person?
Mm-hmm.
So like, what about me might be something that I need to work on?
Right. I love that. That's
like, what is wholesome femininity? And also, like, if you're looking, like, to me, I realize the relation. I mean,
What is wholesome femininity? Interesting. I know. Again, I did say it's just accepting yourself for who you are. Because again, I don't. When we start talking about that, even with femininity, it's like it gets into this place where it's like, it's again an act. It's like, oh, you're supposed to be like this. If you're feminine, you have to have long hair, you have to whatever, do all this type of stuff. And I don't think that is ever healthy. I think accepting ourselves for who we actually are is always going to be the best thing we can do.
I had to self-reflect a lot because they knew exactly what they were looking for.
Yeah, that's funny. So that puts the lotion in his yeah. If you talk about men or women as if they were all the same, that's real sexism. Exactly. There isn't any standard like that. Like there's each individual is just that, an individual, right? And so just painting at every single person with that broad brush is just not, it's very unhelpful, right? Although I understand when people are like, oh men, freaking men. Same thing when people are like, white people, like I get it, and you shouldn't always have to be like, hashtag not all white people, hashtag not all men. You don't always have to do that. We know what you're talking about, and typically it's the toxic masculine, whatever, cookie cutter man.
Mm-hmm. And I didn't know what I was looking for in dating. Obviously, it wasn't a neo-Nazi, but like I went into dating very open-minded my whole life, and I'm like a very go with the flow person.
Yeah,
which I've learned is like not great. Like you should know what your emotional needs are.
If you asked me what you should,
yeah, it's like people pleasing behavior. You want to have boundaries, right? And you want to have boundaries for yourself, and then that way you can know when other people cross your boundaries. But your boundaries start with you, what you think should be acceptable for you. And if anybody crosses that, be assertive and be like, hey, that's it. But if you don't ever put up any boundaries for yourself, like the way that I was raised in like the fundamentalists, like Christian circles, we had no boundaries. Everybody was allowed to just trample over everybody else's boundaries, and you just always were people pleasing and nodding along. And that type of stuff causes a lot of toxic shame. It causes a lot of psychological issues, because you don't see yourself as worthy of having boundaries that you expect other people and yourself to keep.
To be looking for, I would like the go with the flow. I'm hyper intentional.
Hashtag not all bears. Nice. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I've learned that going with the flow.
Some bears are mean. Okay, mostly the white ones, right? The polar. No, not like that. That's not what I was saying. I'm saying the polar bears. Everybody knows polar bears are like the meanest bears, right? I wasn't saying about white. Anyway.
Oh, it's like wrong. Like, don't do that.
You're right though about white supremacist bears. Those things are probably as bad as the well, I think the reason that they are all mean is probably because they are all white supremacist bears, right? The polar bears, anyway.
Yeah.
And but I've learned that because I've had to, like, as they tell me what they're looking for in the homeschooling and whatever, I'm in my mind answering, not that they ever asked me what I was looking for, but I would answer my own. I would tell myself, what am I looking for? And I think I've learned, and also I was really thinking about like submissive and dominant. Like that was like so jarring to me every time I had to think about like, oh, you want someone who's going to be like a second-class citizen to you in your own home. So,
but it's also kind of sexual too. I mean, I feel like that's what I'm hearing.
It's totally sexual oppression, because they were very uncomfortable with sex actually as like even a concept.
Because that's another thing. It's like in those conservative circles, like you don't actually talk about sex with women. You could talk about them with dudes, in the locker room when you're talking in there or whatever, but not with women. You gotta, oh, she's talking about sex. No, don't change the subject. Change the subject. I don't even know.
Like it was hard for them to be like comfortable. They were uncomfortable in their bodies. That was their body. Their main body language was very uncomfortable in their bodies. Like I'm comfortable in my body, and I felt, and as an interviewer, when you're interviewing people, you have to make people feel comfortable, and I had to work on that. But so
much of what you're saying, like, okay, here's what I'm understanding, and it's okay if whoever's listening or watching this does not have the same perception.
Well, it better be, because what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do about it if I disagree with you? And have a different perception. What are you gonna do, huh?
These specific men who feel like they're victims, and they might not say that, but are kind of victimizing themselves into these subgroups that are very misogynistic. And
they're such victims that they will say the Democratic Party is victimizing them.
Right.
But really they feel like victims. Yes.
Jeez. Wow. What babies. My gosh. But now I think about it, they always were like babies. I mean, look at the whole thing with the pandemic. Like they didn't want to wear a piece of fabric on their face. That was just a bridge too far. Was just, being polite by not spreading a disease or whatever. Like, no, you can't. No, don't you tell me. All right. You're making me a second-class citizen because I won't not spread a disease. Jeez, insanity. But all right, y'all. If you want to do some insanity in the bedroom, go to adamandeve.com. Enter code word Brentley at checkout to get 50% off almost any one item. 6 free movies, 3 free gifts, and free shipping on the whole order. Go to adamandeve.com. Enter code word Brentley, Brently, and get your exclusive offer. Adamandeve.com is America's #1 adult toy dispensary. Save yourself a trip to that sticky store where it's everything. It's like when you walk in, you can hear it under your feet. That's what it sounds like when you walk on it, just all over the floor. It sounds like somebody like spilled a soda in a movie theater, right? And you're just like, yeah, because everything's sticky there. Save yourself that stickiness, right? And then you got to go home and wash your shoes, right? And you're scared to touch. Anyway, don't deal with any of that. Have it sent to you directly, straight from the manufacturer, which is adamandeve.com. and get your stuff that way. Get your butt stuff that way. Okay. And yeah, and if you want to support the show, you can support us by supporting our sponsor, adamandeve.com, and entering that code word Brentley at checkout, or you can do a bunch of other crap, right? You can do, let's see, you can become a patron, right? At patreon.com/punkapostate. And right now I actually have a really cool conversation with conversation. It's I was hanging out with John Gleason from Godless Engineer channel, and we were just reacting to shorts and stuff. Had a great time. It's like 2 hours long. Check it out. It's on Patreon, and it's also in the members only section. So either way, you know, if you want to become a member, you can hit that join button, right? And you'll have access to that as well. But let's see. If you want, oh yeah, and if you want to just do a one-time thing, anything helps, seriously. But if you want to just do a one-time payment because you don't want stuff coming out of your account, totally get it. We use Cash App. Our cash tag is Apostate, all one word. If you want to email me, let me know if there's anything I can do better or whatever, you know, if I get anything wrong, like whether or not polar bears are white. Apparently I messed that up. You know, apparently I made a mistake on that. So that's what I'm hearing. That's what I'm gathering from the chat over here. Anyway, yeah, let me know. Let me know that type of stuff. Also, if you want to do a deconversion story, let me know. I love hearing about that type of stuff. But also you can follow the Discord or join the Discord below. I'm going to have the link there. I think I actually got it already. And you can follow me on all the socials. But seriously though, thank you all so much for hanging out. This is a lot of fun. And I think we'll be back tomorrow. I'm going to try. We're going to see. But I don't know. Keep an eye out. But it might be at a different time because I'm kind of altering the schedule right now. I'm trying to get an idea of when to do this stuff. But hey, the main thing though is to stay logical, loving, skeptical, and compassionate. And we will see you next time.